The sound, Amritmani sound.
Yes, sound is fine, Papa.
Okay. So, can you turn on the music? Just give us a minute. So, hope everyone is doing well. And just to do a quick recap, yesterday we talked about how the soul is eternal and this material body is continuously undergoing changes.
We talked about reincarnation.
We talked about reincarnation, that how we change bodies even while we are in this body, and at the time of death, the soul moves on into another body, carrying with it its subtle body, and when liberated, leaves the subtle body behind. And that's all dependent on where we have put our focus or our attention through the course of our life. So the purpose of meditation and chanting is to really
I want this while we are talking.
okay. It's really to bring our focus to the spiritual sound vibration so that it becomes, we become completely absorbed in it. It's part of our reflex. So we'll continue on today. We'll talk about
what is the nature of the soul. So we have talked about how we are not this body. And so it's appropriate to talk about the nature of the soul, because that's the question that comes to mind, that what is the soul then? If I'm not this body, then I want to know more about the soul. And Krishna gives some very useful information about the soul that really eases our fear and stress about who we really are.
Because sometimes there is a sense that maybe the soul or the self or this consciousness is just one bright light. Sometimes there's a sense that maybe it is non-sentient and without any feelings or any thoughts or any desires, or incapable of having any kind of exchanges or any form or any individuality. These are all things that are out there, that people sometimes wonder about. That doesn't mean that when I'm liberated from these material covering, then I am no longer an individual. I've just kind of merged into this void, light, impersonal oneness, and I am no longer anything, right? That's one. And then the second one is that, is it just like a light, homogeneous light? And the third thing is the soul just like a really boring existence with nothing to do, but you just find peace, and that's about all. Is there?
Because peace itself can become boring after a while, because we see so many activity in this material world that we like to be engaged. If we are thinking people, we like to be engaged, think, plan. So the spiritual existence means that there's no activity, there's no planning, there's no intelligence.
There's no joy, no pleasure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No variety. So let's get into all of these things. We have a little, okay, so. I just played this. 1 second, just give me a minute. Yeah. So for the soul, there is okay.
So Krishna in the second chapter reveals some of these truths about the soul. He says, Najayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va nabhuya ajo nityam shashvatoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire.
For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
So it's a very interesting thing about the soul, that we always try to find out the beginning of something. whenever we encounter an object in this material world, we try to also inquire when and where did this come into being? Who made this and when? And is there an expiry date for it? Like for every product we buy, we look at the expiry date. So Krishna is saying that there is no beginning to this soul, just like Krishna has no beginning, because the soul is also eternal part of Krishna. So Krishna, therefore, we also don't have a beginning. It's because it's the same nature.
What does it mean that it has no beginning? Which means that we cannot trace a point, right? In time, when it actually, like sometimes people say that, oh, we are all created. But actually, the Vedic paradigm states that we're actually not created. We coexist. So creation means a point in time. So the living entity actually it exists eternally. And so there's no point of creation. It's an emanation from that supreme consciousness.
Unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. I think it's interesting that Krishna uses these 4 words to describe unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval.
They all mean the same, more or less.
Mean the same, but it's like 4 words.
Yeah.
Ajo, Nityam, Shashvato, Ayam Purano. Aja means unborn, Nitya means eternal, Shashvata means ever existing, and Purana means primeval. So just to reassure us that sometimes, because this truth is not so evident, right? People say, okay, you only got one life, and after this everything is over. So in order to wipe off our stubbornness that no, or our ignorance that we are eternal, Krishna repeats it 4 times. Very unusual. He's not slain in the body, slain. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same.
Again, this can give us such a sense of relief, knowing that actually all the changes that are happening is actually happening not to the self, but it's actually happening to these layers that cover the real self, and that there's nothing in this world that can actually break us. We've talked about this idea of being broken open, but actually the soul itself is unbreakable, which means that all the brokenness that we experience because of our experiences in this material world, it's only happening to the covering. It's not actually happening to the real self. And in this way, we can feel a freedom from fear. And whatever it is that we may go through, the worst of what we may go through actually does not have the capacity to alter our innate self.
Just like we value gold or we value diamond in this world, because
diamonds are forever.
Diamonds are forever. They cannot be burned, they cannot be dried, they cannot be dissolved into something. And that's the, I guess diamond comes closest to something which is really solid, doesn't go away. And they're valuable. So how much more valuable is each soul actually? In different bodies, but each soul is so valuable.
That's true. That's like pure gold.
Yeah.
24 karat pure gold. Yes.
Is everlasting, present everywhere, which means the soul can be present in any situation, unchangeable, immovable, eternally the same. So just reassuring words that can, we don't have to do anything to achieve this eternality. That's another thing, that do I have to do something to be eternal? Krishna is saying you don't have to do anything. You're already that.
You're already that. Yeah. We spend so much of our time trying to purge ourselves so that we can become something, so that we can be loved and we can be accepted. But actually the soul, by its very nature, just by its being, it's not, we are not living doings, we are living beings. Just by our being, we are worth, we are very valuable.
Yeah, I mean, if you find a diamond on the street, then everybody will run for it because it has that quality. So similarly, every soul is actually millions of times more valuable than diamond because it is eternal. What is eternal in this world? There's nothing eternal.
Actually, it is described that in this entire material realm, there are only 2 things that are actually living, because everything else in this world is made of matter, which is intrinsically without consciousness, right? So there are only 2 conscious entities in this world. One is the individual soul, and the other is this spiritual sound vibration of this mantra. That's living. And the soul is also living. So then somebody could say what is the dharma? We hear this word so often, the dharma of the soul.
Or the essential nature of the soul, what is it?
So the first question, of course, is what is the meaning of the word dharma? It's a word that gets tossed around, and yet maybe sometimes we don't quite understand what is the meaning of this word. So the word dharma means that which sustains us, something that holds us, right? And one of my own favorite examples is, like seeing an object and seeing what is the intrinsic quality of that object. And if you remove that quality from that object, then that object ceases to be that particular thing. So for example, what is the dharma of water? The dharma of water is liquidity, because if you remove liquidity from water, then it's no longer water, then it becomes ice or maybe vapor. So in the same way, one could think about salt. The salt, the dharma of salt would be saltiness. Sugar would be sweetness. So these are all dharma of that particular thing. And so that quality which accompanies the living entity through all its conditions.
Regardless of the situation, regardless of the time, place, changes in time, place, even lifetimes, something that stays with the soul forever. That is the dharma of the soul.
That is the dharma of the soul, whether it's an animal or it's a plant or it's a human being, or even in the body of a human being, whatever body, right? Something that transcends cultures. It doesn't matter which culture a person is from, what gender a person belongs to.
So that defines that platform of commonality between all of us, no matter who we are. Anything that is living, even a tiny ant or an insect, we have something very common between us, that we are a spiritual being who are the same. It's just the body is different, but the same spiritual being.
And so what is that quality? So that is described as being this quality of love and service. So the innate quality of every living being is to love and to receive love. That is the nature of the self. And we see that, like I was just reading up about the ants and how these ants are amazing. Like when they find a little grain of sugar, there is a whole system by which they want to let the others know that, there is sugar, you don't have to go hungry. And there's a whole society of ants where they take care of each other. They tend to their sick. And the same way you see that with humans. And now we are finding out about trees. Remember those wonderful articles that we read about how trees, they communicate with each other. And if there's a sick tree, then all the trees will come together to provide support.
They send special nutrients to that sick tree to the network of their roots. So there's a whole system of communication. So you can see that this nature to give and to serve is so innate in every living entity.
And Prabhupada says that if a person doesn't have any person or family member to love and to serve, then we like to keep some pet in the house so that we can take care of them, we can serve them. So it's such a strong need within each one of us. It's just sometimes we just don't know where to repose that loving tendency. And so the process of bhakti allows us to take that loving tendency and repose it in the supreme, beautiful, attractive person and find our perfect reciprocation and satisfaction through that relationship. So
this is an example. The picture that you see is a famous scientist biologist called Jane Goodall. And she is renowned throughout the world for her research in rehabilitating and rescuing and restoring chimpanzees in Africa and restoring their health and setting them back to the forest. So there's this chimpanzee she rescued and she brought back to health. And then finally, she opened the cage and then say, okay, you go to the forest. The chimpanzee, he started walking to the forest and then he stopped and he came back and he jumped back onto the top of the cage. And then he looked for a minute and then he came and gave Jane Goodall such a long, powerful hug and embracing her with all his heart. And we could see that he was expressing his love because he received this life-giving service from Jane Goodall. So this tendency to love and serve is very evident in this example.
And so that's what we are tapping into through this process of mantra meditation, through this process of bhakti. We are tapping into this deepest propensity to love and to love with no holds, like nothing that holds us back. One of our greatest challenges is that what we seek is actually what fears us the most. So the ability to love without any fear, without any conditions, freely, and feel completely happy in that service.
We have actually forgotten how to love and serve in this body. we want to be served, but still our service tendency comes out. So this mantra meditation actually brings out our original dharma of loving and serving without any conditions. And it starts with connecting with the Supreme in love and service. So when we're chanting, this chanting is actually a service.
So when we chant today, we can call out, please, O Hare, O energy, O supreme divine spiritual energy, O goddess, please engage us in service, in service to you, in service in love, you know. So let's chant together. We can turn on the music. Can you hear this music? Okay. Can hear it. So we're going to chant now. Sanjaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama,
Dharma, ఒకసారి బయటికి వెళ్ళి I just have to talk to somebody. Thank you. 1 second. Just 1 second. You don't have to.
take some reflections, comments, questions, your experiences, anything you want to share with the rest of the group.
What did you think about this concept about the soul not being born, and also about the essential nature of the soul? How does it impact you?
Yes, Turtle, go ahead.
Amritwani, can they unmute themselves?
Okay, thank you, Komal. I can see you. Yeah.
Turtle, you're still muted.
Okay, there we go. I've been thinking a lot about the personality and how, I guess, how we can live into our own unique personality while also being a devotee. You know, if you think about like all the labels that we might receive growing up, some obviously we translate as good, some we translate as bad, etc. So I don't know if that's making any sense, but do you have any thoughts on that?
Okay, let me try and understand. What you're saying is that we have so many labels, right? Some are good, some are bad. But, you know, in this process of bhakti, what does it mean to really develop your own individuality?
Yeah. Or are we even supposed to, right?
Well, this is such a good question, actually, because the living entity, the soul, the self, is a unique individual with unique attributes. And just like you have a snowflake or a thumbprint, or, you know, it's like there are so many unique things about each person, and no two individual souls are actually identical to each other. And that is actually the perfection or the beauty of being an individual soul, because in the relationship with Krishna, there is this variety that is created, like a bouquet of flowers, where each individual attribute is actually celebrated. And when we are covered by this material layers, then those attributes actually are covered over. So what we see right now is sort of like you know, the full potentiality of that individuality has been completely restricted. But through the practice of bhakti, then that individuality actually blossoms into its complete it's complete form.
Manifestation,
It's complete manifestation. And Krishna relishes that. It is described that there is one unique quality that belongs to each person that is actually relished by Krishna. And that quality is yours and yours alone. And
this individuality is a primary thesis of Bhagavad Gita, that every soul is individual and God is also individual. That's the very first thing Krishna says to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, the second chapter. He says, Natu evam jatu na samnatam neme janadipa nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayamata param. That never was there a time when you did not exist, Arjuna, nor I, and will also continue to exist as individuals in the future as well. So, and individuality is the foundation of love and service, because without individuality, there cannot be any love and service. If everybody was the same, then where is the question of individuality and service? So Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and he wants to, that's the purpose of every soul, is to participate in Krishna and facilitate Krishna's enjoyment, and therefore also enjoy along with Krishna. And that cannot happen without individuality. And as we progress in bhakti, as we practice this meditation, our spiritual individuality starts coming out and blossoming.
With so many details, right? And that's what it means. Love means variety. Pleasure means variety. And bhakti introduces us to this world of unlimited variety.
Does that make sense, Turtle?
Yeah, no, it's extremely helpful. Thank you. It gives me a peace of mind that I can honor my individuality and live into it.
And Krishna honors and values our individuality.
He relishes it.
He is waiting for our individuality to come out. The heart of the super soul is waiting that, okay, when can I engage with this individual fully?
Fully.
I love that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Misha, go ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Yes.
No, you were talking about the soul, whole purpose is to love, and the soul is the essence of our living, right? So what I never understood one question is why are some people born in certain stratas and some are given more tests in life? Be it like, some people are born healthy with all limbs and everything. So what is this? Is it what they call karma? Is that true, or is it that's a question? That was my question.
Yeah, we have a full session on that. It's, why do bad things happen to good people? And to understand suffering in this world is actually very, very difficult. At the same time, the laws of karma give us an insight into our countless lifetimes and the actions and reactions we have accrued over those lifetimes.
Yeah, our desires and our consciousness and our karma, our reactions to our actions in this world, these three things determine where a living entity will go next. And it's a very complex equation that only super soul can understand and solve. That okay, this is where this person needs to go. But karma plays a big part. Our desires play a big part. What is our consciousness at the time of death? That plays a big part. So that's why people are born into different situations. And not
Okay.
everybody gets a chance to be born as a human being also. If a living entity does not utilize its situation properly and acts in such a way, then the living entity may be born as even an animal or a plant in the next life.
Then that's why you have so much variety.
Yeah.
We were talking about variety in the spiritual realm. There's so much variety in the material realm, because in order to facilitate those individual desires that we may have, material nature has to give us a corresponding body. So, for example, if someone has a desire that I just want to be able to sleep, most of the time, then material nature would say, well, you don't really need a human body for that. That desire that you carry will not really be facilitated in this human form. So let me give you the body of maybe a polar bear or maybe some other animal where you get to sleep for a much extended period of time. So this body has really been given to us to facilitate our fantasies and our desires. And of course, we know, as we all know by now, that none of those fantasies ultimately bring us any lasting happiness, but still we want to try. So there is no force or coercion in the path of spiritual life. And so, those options are there. And at some point, then the living entity finally turns and towards, the eternal companion within the heart and says, I'm done. I've done enough. I now want to reconnect with you. So another reason why different people are born with suffering is to awaken within us that, that point
If we are not in control, I guess our life situation, this is one thing teaches us that I'm not in control. Very quickly we find out that I have to struggle. As soon as I have to struggle for something, that means I'm not in control.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Hare
Raj.
Krishna, Raj.
Yeah. So my question was, a soul is not born, it's not created, it's always there. So how many souls are there? Is it written anywhere?
There is no count because Krishna is unlimited. So the number of souls are also unlimited. There is no count. You can't really put a count because count is only for something material. And soul being a spiritual entity, our counts don't really count towards that.
You can't really count. Just like you can't
So
count
that would be infinite.
Yeah, it's infinite.
Infinite number. Because there are infinite number of universes, even in the material world. There are infinite number of universes, unlimited. And in each universe, there are unlimited number of souls. So there is no counting.
Even in our body.
Even in our body, there are so many bacteria and viruses and germs. And then you go out on the outside, there's so many like grass and insects, and there's no counting, even in this universe. So what to speak of?
That really just really brings us to this, this point of, how insignificant and tiny we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually.
But at the same time, it seems like there's so many living entities. And how does God know each one of them, and how does he? But Krishna is so particular that he's sitting as super soul with every single living entity in all the universes. So he's personally present for each living entity to take care of that living
Actually,
entity.
I had this question one time. I had this doubt actually, like, how is this possible? So I still remember I was driving in Gaithersburg, and I was sitting in a car, and it was a winter day, and then the sun was actually shining on me, and all of a sudden it just hit me. I was like, oh my God, if there is, there's so many countless living entities on this planet, and there is one sun, but right now when the sun is shining on me, I feel like the sun is just for me.
Just for me.
And the sun is, so what to speak of, the person who's the source of all of this, So, it was like a aha moment for me. Actually, just wanted to kind of, before, you guys start to, drop off, those of you who are interested, and some of you have expressed to us that you guys want to study the Bhagavad Gita systematically. So we actually have a class on Friday night EST.
Friday evenings, so 6 a.m. India time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time in the US. So we will be going through Bhagavad Gita systematically. So you can join in. We'll send you there's a different Zoom ID for that. So we'll send you that. Or Amritwani, do you have it? If you have it, Amritwani, can you post it in the chat right now?
I think we should still send, but you guys, we can send it on the email also.
We'll also send it to you on the email, so you'll have it.
Oh, should I post here, Mat Prabhu?
Yeah, post it here anyways.
Okay.
And yeah.
Which one, Prabhu? Which one? Sorry.
The 7:30 p.m. one, EST.
Okay.
Use of welcome class.
Okay, I am posting.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other
Hare
thoughts? Yes.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to share one of the stories which I had heard about Bhishma Pitamaha, where he was lying on the bed of arrows, and the reason for that, which was narrated, was that a few births earlier he was a hunter and he had killed a chameleon with his multiple arrows, because that time they had that technology, or the facility where they could shoot multiple arrows at the same time, and the chameleon fell on its back and it was lying on the floor upside down, suffering for a long time. And that's how it seems he had to bear a similar death over a few births later on. And that's how he suffered. He was lying on the bed of arrows.
Oh, thank you, Raj. Thank you for sharing.
So, I've heard the story. I'll just share it. I don't know whether it's,
Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Srishti, any thought from you?
No thoughts, but just I just joined a little late, so I think I missed some of the part today.
Let's watch the video. Well, thank you so much.
And by the way, we are posting all the recordings of the videos in circle.so, our online community portal. So if you have not registered for that, kindly register, and there you'll get access to the video recordings. And we're also sharing the slides in there, and then we'll continue to add more resources there. So it will be your one-stop shop where you'll get the resources for practicing this meditation, and we just want to build it up for your benefit.
We're also planning to post videos on practical bhakti, how to chant, how to hold the beads, how to make an offering. I think Turtle asked, right, that she wants to learn how to make an offering. So we'll post all of that on Circle SO.
That's coming up in due course, but in the meantime, the recordings are there and the slides are there for this session.
Alright.
Also, just one more thing, these Bhagavad Gita classes that are being held, would this be just like once every week, or would it be a daily? Once a week, every Friday.
Every Friday.
Every Friday evening.
In India,
in the US it will be Friday evening, but for those of us who are in India right now, it will be Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, 6 o'clock. It's a little bit of a difficult time, but yeah.
But I think I can manage that. I would love to join those classes.
Okay, so please join. We'd love for you
So
to join.
the ID, Zoom ID and password are shared in the chat. Please copy and paste it and save it. We'll also send it to you by email, all of you. Anshul and Anchita, I don't know if you're there.
They're not there today.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Wonderful.